Welcome to The World is Waiting with your hosts, Courtney Burton and Jamie Shepard. Courtney and Jamie are entrepreneurs, world travelers, fitness coaches, friends, and most importantly, Amazing Race superfans. Unedited, unscripted, and 100% real life. The world is waiting. The world is waiting. Let's get to the episode.
All right, episode 4
this is episode 3.
Our episode 3, episode 4 of The Amazing Race. Sorry, so we're a little off. That would have probably been smarter if we had just been sequenced. But it is episode 3 of The World is Waiting.
Yes.
Yay. Episode 4 of The Amazing Race, season 33. Hey, Court, how you doing?
Good. Been fighting a little sinus infection this week, so if I sound a little stuffed up, that's what's going on. But I was sick on the couch, just binge watching The Amazing Race, of course. And I am so excited to break down today's episode.
This episode was so emotional. So I know we've teased this a few times, but this episode came 19 months after episode 3. So they suspended the race in February of 2020, which ended at episode 3. Now, 19 months later, they have all come back to Switzerland where they are commencing the race. So talk about that, Court, because it's like goosebumps. Just like it's so emotional.
It's just crazy because I feel like so much life happened in those 19 months, and some of the teams didn't come back, and we'll talk about like why they didn't come back, because life happened in 19 months. And I feel like every single person that watched the beginning of that episode, it took them back to February 2020 and everything that's happened over the past 2 years, because it's February 2022 right now that we're filming this. It just took us back to the past 2 years and all the changes that have happened in our society. It's been wild.
Well, and I just can't imagine like how would you use that time? So say we're on the race and like we're like in it, right? I was watching a recap of that last episode and they were all into it, like doing the dancing. They were like, you're just in this, you're in game mode, right? You're in race mode, You're in competition mode. And all of a sudden it's just like, boop, plot twist, we're all going home. Mixed in. So the supreme disappointment that your life, that you've just mapped out the next month of your life, that you've rearranged everything for, like to be able to leave your life like that to go on this race takes, I can imagine it would take so much preparation, just bringing all the people in your life to help cover your family, your animals, your jobs, and then to come back home, but then to come back to the world shutting down. So then you've got an unknown amount of time. I'm sure they were just kind of like every couple months and we've all lived it. We lived that with them. So we know that like, it wasn't like, oh, in 19 months, we'll start again. It was like, maybe in 2 weeks, maybe in 3 months, maybe, like we all lived that. We knew it was like, every time we thought we'd get close to it being over, it was like the finish line got moved again. So what would you have done during that time, do you think?
Trained.
Yeah.
I would have trained for success. And I think it's so crazy that we see some of these teams coming back 19 months later. And they realized on the very first day when they were running around London, how physical this race was. Like, even if you watch it on TV and you're like, oh, it doesn't seem that physical, it is a physical race. And so I'm like, I have been training. And some of the teams did train. So the teams come back and like Dusty, and I always forget his partner's name.
It's Dusty and Ryan.
Like, talk about, we went to Colorado and we freaking trained in the mountains. And I'm like, you're my people. That's why they're my faves. They're my people.
Yeah. And they were like, we took stock of our weak points, where we found quickly, and I think you quickly identify, right? Yeah. Where you're going to struggle in the race once you're in it. I think it would probably be hard to forecast that. Like you could probably anticipate because if you watch the show, but until you're in it, you might not actually know like, oh, okay, this level of pressure, this level of intensity, this level of schedule, this level of logistics, etc. Especially if it's someone who hasn't traveled the world a lot, you don't know what you don't know, but
they're in it for $1 million. Like, if you told me you train, you do this, you get $1 million. I'd be training for 19 months. Like, what else are you doing? You're not traveling. You're not going out to dinner. Like, I'd be training.
Exactly.
So it's shocking to me. So let's talk about this then. Okay. So the teams come back. And so the teams that come back are, go ahead and say the teams that are, because you have.
Okay. So the teams that came back are Penn and
Kim.
Penn and Kim.
Love.
Why do I not have anyone's names? I have the names of the people that left, but the twins. We've got Ryan and Dusty, the guy, and he was the one that was in prison and the friend that stood by him. Yep. We've got the flight attendants
who, like, they just got laid off of their jobs. Like,
they literally didn't work for a year and a half. So, and then who's the fifth team?
We're doing a great job here. Akbar and Sheri.
Yeah, Akbar and Sheri. Yes. So, and they're the teachers from the couple from New Jersey. Okay. So they had, when we left, they were are still in the race, as well as Connie and Sam, which is a cute married couple. Anthony and Spencer, who were the military guys, right? They were famous for like taking down a terrorist on a train. Taylor and Isaiah were the married couple who had a viral wedding video, and then Caro and Ray, which we talked about last time. We won't dog on them anymore, but they were the reality show dating couple from Fantasy Island or whatever.
And so half of them didn't come back because life happened.
Yeah, and so that was kind of like the sobering part. Was like, we can say, yeah, I would train for 19 months, but at the same time, we lived through trauma for 19 months. Like, life happened for 19 months. So those four didn't come back. So Connie and Sam, Anthony and Spencer, Taylor and Isaiah, and Caro and Ray. So we went from 9 teams to 5 to keep the race viable. They brought back, this is the coolest part, the 2 teams that had been eliminated. So that was Arun and Natalia, the father-daughter team, and they're just so cute, but maybe not super race savvy. And then the police officers, Mo and Michael.
Yes.
So they got a second chance. And so now we have 17.
I was glad to see Mo and Michael come back because I felt like they could be a strong team, and they got eliminated first. And I was like, you know what? This is good. This is their second chance.
Yeah. And I love second chances. I think, especially, could you imagine, like, okay, so we talked about, like, if you were in the race and it got plucked out of you, what if you'd been kicked off already? You'd already lost. Then you're like, wait, guess what? You get to try again. Like, that would be like, that would be beyond what I'd ever dream of happening. So all of that to say, yes, life happens. We've all lived through it. It's easy to say I would have trained, I would have eaten well, I would have done the things. However, at the same time, if you know $1 million is on the line, like, if you're really in this race, you would freaking make it happen.
I know. Akbar and Sheri, if you're watching or listening to this,
I'm disappointed in you.
You guys are athletes, and for 19 months, you knew what was coming next. And I understand you have kids and you have life happening, and you guys were teaching during COVID and so much stuff, but like, make 30 minutes a day. Like, do this.
Right. Well, and like, we're fitness coaches for a living. Like, we know it takes 30 minutes a day. So I would say I'm a little disappointed, and I was really disappointed in them. And I was kind of like, well, natural selection, karma's a bee, right? Like, that's, we'll figure it out. And we'll dig more into why that was really so apparent on this episode, because it was just like, it was painful and to watch how dumb it was. So, but that being said, I think that Ryan and Dusty totally came in. They clearly had trained their butts off. Penn and Kim definitely were like, came in fit and ready to, like, they came in like fitter, but also their mindset was like dialed in. Yeah. You
could tell that they did some training and some communication, and like they trained in a different way, and they were ready to go.
Yep, 100%. And
I think they're gonna win.
I think so too. And I've been following them on Instagram, and I really like them. And they just have this really sweet, like, I'm all about like the people that will like be encouraging and camaraderie. Like, you don't have to like give up your first place spot to help someone, but at the same time, it doesn't take you out of the race or out of competitive edge to be kind and encouraging, right? And to, like, as Penn. So I'll stop because we got to go through what they did. So they came back in the race and they were told they had to find this mountain, basically. A couple things changed though. So in order to come back and be able to travel safely, because clearly COVID's not going anywhere, especially around the world. US has a completely different way of approaching COVID than I think most of the rest of the world has. Like a lot of countries are literally still locked down in their homes, including Canada.
Rolling my eyes. Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
And so so how are they going to do that? And how are they going to do that, especially as like a liability from a production company, like putting people when really there's just so many unknowns. So they are chartering planes. So now all travel, like, did you see the big plane at the start of this episode? This had Amazing Race on the side. So now they've taken out one of my favorite parts of the unknowns, which is flights. If you've ever traveled, especially traveled internationally or especially traveled recently, flights are getting canceled and delayed all over the place. And I think that the flight, because you had to get your own flights, you had to book your own flights, you had to figure out the straightest path to point A to point B. And honestly, like it was one of my favorite, most realistic, natural causes of
getting eliminated.
But
I think that they are adding on a lot more navigation, a lot more driving from what we've seen, because there's no more like the taxi, like, am I going to get the right taxi or the wrong taxi? Or is my flight going to, like, am I taking the chance on this flight or am I getting, so I think that they're going to put in those variables in other ways throughout the season. And so we'll see. So so we start this episode, they all come back. They have, was it 2 or 3 charter buses to choose from?
3.
Yep. And so they're all going to this mountain.
Yep. So they had to find this bus stop. Basically, they had to pick one of 3 buses. And so there's no public transportation. And then there's a chartered plane. So you guys just have to understand that is a huge game changer. This game has completely changed by taking out those 2 factors that were completely at the whim of the, real world. Not your own level of skill or grit or strength brutes, whatever. So then we get to this mountain in Switzerland, and this is so beautiful. You can see 6 countries, all from the top of this mountain. It's a steep mountain, so they're in harness. They're hooked up with carabiners and a 2-carabiner system. What?
This is the task that they get there, and they have to choose one person. They can see what's going to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Like they can see the setup, and they have to choose one person from the team to do the task.
Yep.
Like Kim and Penn choose Penn. Like they choose one person. Dusty and Ryan, I think they chose Ryan, or Dusty, they crushed it, right? They chose the person that would be best suited for that task of.
You thought you were going to be on a cliff with a height going straight up a mountain. I'm sorry if you've ever gone hiking even a little bit and you're going uphill, that is going to be hard. We're front loading this because we're both completely annoyed and so disturbed that Akbar and Sheri chose Sheri to be the one to do this task. First of all, she's completely out of shape. And second of all, since the very beginning, I think in the very first episode, she's like, I'm afraid of heights. I'm terrified of heights. I don't know how many times have you heard her say, I'm terrified of heights. And we also already know she is so not in shape.
No, and she says it. She's like, I want to do this challenge. I want to challenge myself, which is awesome. Like, I love that mentally she's up for the challenge and she wants to get out of her comfort zone. But the entire race is out of the comfort zone, and you're racing for $1 million. Like, win the $1 million and come back and do that as a fun activity. Like,
play to your strengths. Play to your strengths.
So literally, oh my gosh, it's just painful to watch. So this first task, they're getting carabiner in, and they have to run up this mountain, get a clue, and run back down.
Yeah. Literally, there's one cable bolted into the side of this mountain, and so it's a single file line. So she's now holding up everyone else. So luckily they find some areas where they can clip around her. We'll fast forward to the fact that everyone gets up and down and then back into town, and Sheri is still on her way up. She is shut down, frozen out of fear. And I feel so sad for her, and I feel bad. My heart goes out to her, but at the same time, Court and I are wired the same way. Like, you're in a race, for $1 million. I don't care if it was a race for $1,000. You're in a race. You like pull up your big girl panties and you get shit done. That's kind of how I feel about it. And yes, maybe one day karma's going to come bite me in the ass and someone can remind me, like I said this when I'm shut down out of fear on the side of a mountain, but I don't think that's going to happen.
Yeah. So now Akbar and Sheri are in dead last.
Dead last, like an hour long dead last.
It's bad.
But he didn't lose his shit.
No, he was really good and supportive, and I liked that. And it was good. He was supportive, which was great.
He was supportive of her, which I was surprised because I think I would have been like, what the F?
Courtney, hurry up.
I would have seen steam coming out of my ears. Maybe, I don't know, who knows? But okay, so now the rest of the episode is, so they get to pick. So, right, you get to pick between.
And they're in Switzerland.
Yeah, so they're in Switzerland. So I love, always you're going to see these activities that are going to be culturally relevant and culturally tied to the community. And so they were given the choice they could, and this is blind. So you have to pick between, you're just given a little bit of word cue, right? And you kind of have to blindly pick one person, or you both have to do it. So it was toss it or punch it. So you're in Switzerland, toss or punch. What would you have guessed, do you think?
I have no, I think tossing food or
I thought it was going to be like tossing like milk jugs.
Yeah.
From like a freshly milked cow or something, or tossing hay bales. I thought toss it would be something brute strength, and then punch it. I had no idea.
So it ended up being toss it was tossing these flags in a synchronized dance. And then punch it was making a belt. Like you had to punch the holes in the belt and make a belt. So like, what would you, like, if now that you know the tasks, I would have chosen toss it.
See, I would have chosen punch it, but toss it was clearly the better choice. Like punch it took a lot longer. It was very simple though. You just had to theoretically, it was very simple. It was like straightforward. You get these like little metal ornaments and you have to punch a hole in the leather, poke the ornament through, and it's like a sequence of ornaments that goes along with this folk tale, right? Like the cow with the maid and the hay or whatever, and then you just punch it in the hole.
Instructions. It shouldn't be that hard.
Yeah, no. And so, but it might take a little longer because you're doing it. And then the toss it, I think I don't give myself enough credit. I always assume I can't do the dances and the synchronized things, but like we do reels and TikToks all the time and I can pick them up really fast. I think toss it would have been totally fine. But when I was originally watching it, the first time they go through this flag tossing, because you have to like catch it with a certain way, like you can't catch it like that, you have to catch it like that and it can't touch the ground. I was like, oh God, I would have been stuck there for hours.
Look like the teams are like, okay, these are heavy. This is not just coordination, it's also strength. So it was a little bit of brute strength. Like that was kind of the one for strength.
Yeah. But everyone crushed it. It seemed like all the strong teams, so all 5 of the returning teams naturally picked toss it, and then the other 2 picked punch it. And I do have to wonder too, like, what they're around, the production teams around, you can hear, like the way we know enough about how shows work. I do wonder sometimes, like, do they have an idea, like just for the show, does it look like they have no idea versus like, do they have a kind of a hint while they're actually there? I kind of feel like maybe they do. We'll have to let you guys know when we go on the show someday. We'll come back and we'll report after the fact, like if there was a little hint of what we were doing. But so all of that was pretty simple. They all actually crushed the flag tossing. The belts, however, different story.
So toss it teams crushed it. Who came in first place? Dusty and Ryan?
Dusty and Ryan, yeah.
Ryan.
Penn and Kim did the dance, did it faster, but I think Dusty and Ryan passed them in the drive. Where
there you go. The driving now is going to kind of be that difference maker, the separator between teams. So Dusty and Ryan, Kim and Penn, I know the flight attendants get in, the twins get in, Akbar and Sheri get in.
Yeah.
No, the dad and mom. So it comes down pretty much to Akbar and Sheri and the cops. The cops botch the belt making. Like, they got eliminated in the very first episode. This was a second chance. In the very first episode for not following the directions on the art, right? On the art challenge where they have to put the graffiti on the wall, but in a pattern.
They just glued it all in a hot mess with no rhyme or reason. And so the belt also had some structure to it.
Yes.
And they had to just go in the order, right? Goes in the order of the story on the belt. And they just thought themselves out of it, like just thought themselves backwards. But right, they like went, instead of the buckle to the tail, they did the story from the tail to the buckle. They even did it from right to left. Who reads from right to left in the United States? In Japan, you read from right to left. Braille, you read right to left. We are not in either of those places. Left to right, they got it backwards. They did the entire thing twice because.
I mean, you have such a lead because Akbar and Sheri they're still on the freaking mountain. Like, right? You're done your belt and they are still on the mountain, but yet they beat you.
Yeah. I am sure we seem like the biggest mean girls right now, but I'm sorry, but there's just this level of common sensory that you just don't maybe deserve to win if you can't master that. Don't hate me. So all that to say, Mo and Michael, the policemen, were eliminated
again.
Episode 1 again, like their first chance back. They got sent home.
Oh, it's sad, but it's also like, okay, maybe you weren't the best racers.
Yeah, and somehow Akbar and Sheri did not come in last place.
They lived to see another day.
So that was it. And now we're all back in the race. There's 6 teams that are crushing forward to our next pit stop. And
so, I'm going to ask you, so we have 6 teams left in the race going to the next pit stop. Episode 1, you thought the vets were going to win and they're not in the race anymore, right?
I feel like they could have.
But it doesn't matter. They're not in the race anymore.
Yeah.
Who is your pick to win season 33 of The Amazing Race?
Okay, who do I want to win or who do I think will win?
Who do you think will win?
I think it's gonna be Dusty and Ryan. Dusty and why do I keep forgetting their names?
Dusty and Ryan.
Dusty and Ryan. I think it's gonna be Dusty and Ryan or Kim and Penn. Either way. But Dusty and Ryan like literally spent that time freaking training, singularly focused training. And they've come in first clearly, strongly, like dominantly are for 4 legs now.
It was really funny though. So when they brought all the teams back in the very beginning, there were some terrible stories. Like we kind of glazed over this part, like the twins who you did not like at first, but this like
now they have my heart.
So the twins said that their grandmother passed away due to complications with COVID, and then they didn't get a chance to say goodbye, and they're back in the race racing for grandma. Like, because their grandma said, like, live life to the fullest. And so, like, they're back in the race for grandma and, pull the heartstrings. But it was funny because Dusty and Ryan, they're like, how was lockdown for you? Dusty was like, well, it was better than the last time I was locked down for 10 years. Like, he made a joke of his prison sentence, which, once again, they're my pick to win. And I thought it was endearing.
Yeah. And the flight attendants, they also were out, like they were unemployed for 19 months, and they just said they finally got cleared to travel again and work again. I think they're strong. I think they'll continue to do well. They have world travel savviness. I didn't get the impression they like were ultra fit or had really like trained hard, but who knows? And
but in all the physical challenges, they've been crushing it. So they could be that female team that really comes in and surprises us.
Let's talk next time or the time after about why you think it's so hard for all female teams to win this. Because it's so rare, right? I think it's happened.
Next episode.
Huh?
We'll talk about it next episode. Teaser for next episode.
Yeah.
All right, well, let's wrap this one up. Thank you for watching. The world is waiting. If you guys liked this episode, please share it with friends, comment below, tag us, do all of the things, and we'll see you next episode.
Our question for you, if you can give us some feedback, is Were you as frustrated and annoyed or just straight up irritated at Akbar and Sheri's choice on this challenge as we were? Because clearly we spent most of our airtime today complaining about that.
Like all we could talk about when the episode, we were just texting each other like, oh my gosh, what is going on? So,
yeah. So were you in the same boat as us? And so we'll talk to you soon. Bye.
Bye.